a few cards on our platform has already been offered offline that people are willing to pay a few more X to buy it. That's why we recently launched an auction voting that we might take one of our card, the Haaland card, to eBay to do an auction.
So you see that Altani, his card was recently sold for 3 million.
And yes.
And then you got Aaron Judge going for 5 million. Today, we're coming back to another episode of the RWA Stack by Gate Ventures, the venture arm of Gate. We are very honored to have Jason, the founder of MarketCards, and he's also the partner of NextGen Digital Ventures. Hello, Jason. How are you?
Hi, Tiffany. Long time no see. Thanks for having me.
I'm very happy to see that you're building something new in your journey. So for everyone who's listening, either through our space or through YouTube or Spotify for our podcast, let me introduce you MarketCards and Gate Ventures. We have been investing in the TCG sector since last year, and we are closely observing the sector. And Jason, would you like to give us a bit of intro about yourself? I think you have a very interesting journey throughout crypto. You're so OG here.
I wouldn't call myself exactly OG because I always consider myself pretty new, next gen, you know. So a brief introduction about myself. I used to be a VC in the Web2 world. So I've been doing VC for almost 10 years in China Renaissance, Qiming Venture Partners, mostly in consumer internet. So in 2019, I joined the family office of Joseph Tsai, the chairman of Alibaba. So I was his head of China for almost 4 years before I found NDV. So we are a crypto-focused hedge fund, mostly in the stock market, which by definition, we are not exactly a crypto token fund. So we did pretty well like in the past 2-3 years and deliver around 4x return to our LPs. And I've always been a collector myself in sports cards and like trading cards. So last year, I thought maybe it's interesting to step into the trading card space and build a platform. So that's the origin of MarketCards. We've just finished our first IDO in sports cards, mostly focused on soccer, because we thought the first World Cup in America could draw a lot of attention in the space. And we think it's a very interesting place to be given where the world is today. So yeah, that's basically it.
I love how you start with football. Gate is also a sponsor of a football team. We sponsored Inter Milan, which is a team from Italy. So we're very happy to see how this could go around.
Oh, great. Nice to hear that. So are you into soccer yourself? Have you been watching any games recently?
So for recently, I've been watching a lot of memes about Haaland.
Interestingly, we've actually had like 68 cards trading on our platform today, and we just received a first auction offer by one of our token holders. We would need to go through a voting process before we finally decide where we want to send it to auction. But I think there's a pretty good chance that we might auction our Haaland card just in the next few days. And he has been doing extremely well in his games. I think for me, investing in sports cards is more or less investing into the people. So I'm actually a more like basketball fan rather than football fan. But still, I think when the players are on their competing spirit, always encourages me. And the reason why I found NDV was because Steph Curry won his fourth NBA championship back in 2022. So he kind of inspired and encouraged me that you can still do a lot of things when you get to the age of 34 because we were born in the same year.
I love that. I love that. So I think a lot of people, they are still trying to understand what's going on within the card industry. So you see that Altani, his card was recently sold for 3 million.
And yes.
And then you got Aaron Judge going for 5 million. So Jason, could you let our audiences know what is actually going on in the sports card market? And of course, we got baseball, football, right?
Yeah. So I think the card market is a very special place because the way that they issue is more or less like a token. So the card market has been going on for like 20 years already, and they have very stable ways of issuing new cards. Because back in, I think 1986, the card company who got the NBA rights, they actually overissued. So the card price isn't so high. So finally, all the card issuing companies that they finally figure out they need to control the inflation when they issue new cards. Right now, it has been steady for almost 20 years. And around 10 years ago, a bunch of companies started grading the cards, PSA of the world. They start to give like different scores on the status of the card. So it becomes a very standardized product. And in, I think, 2020, when Kobe Bryant passed away, people suddenly realized that there's going to be no inflation in Kobe Bryant's cards and everyone wants a signature card of Kobe. That was the time together with the pandemic. It's the first wave of real rise in sports cards price. And this year, since it's the 30 years anniversary of Pokemon cards, TCG cards also got a lot of attention as well. So I think it's something like meme coin, but I think better because you have the physical card and you have the limited issuing editions. So cards is seen somewhat like a meme asset right now. And because all these IP managing companies and also sports leagues, they are consistently doing a lot of promotions into their games. When people got attracted by the game itself, people will start like to trade the card itself.
Understood. For a lot of people that literally start their investment journey in sports cards, what actually determines the value? Of course, you mentioned about the non-inflation situation over here, and then you have the player story. Of course, we are also seeing some funds that are investing in alternative assets. So what is the actual reason that push everything up here? Like, what do you see in the market right now?
Very good question. So internally in our product, we're trying to build ways to ease up, understand the value of the card. So the way that we break it down is usually in 4 categories. So first of all the card issuance come by blind box. So the type of blind box that you open the card from determines 1/4 of the value. So the higher price of the blind box, the higher card that you draw out. Secondly, it's more or less like the status of the card. So you have like 1 of 1, you have rookie year, you have maybe Black Prism, you have signatures, and you might have like players' closes on like one of the cards. These are all elements that would determine the scarcity of the card itself. And thirdly, it's a player story. So it's not too hard to understand when Wemby actually won in the Western Finals. One of his rookie year card also auctioned for around 5 million US as well. So he actually beat the original expectation of how people would view that he played in the Western Finals in NBA. So the player itself also very important. And then the 4th element is actually PSA. The way that you grade a card, the status of the card itself, whether it's like protected well, do you have scars on it or scratches on it? I think that's basically the 4 elements that would determine how a card would be worth. I think most importantly is the player itself and then the status of the card as well.
Yes, PSA is rising their price for grading the cards. So that means like for cards that are not that rare or valuable, you might have a negative EV for grading it, right? So is that essentially impacting the market supply over here?
Yes, of course. And there are also a lot of companies doing different models because there are people trying to play more lottery like operating method in cars as well. So all these people who are doing the lottery game, they need a PSA grading for each card. So that's why the scarcity of a PSA graded card also go up.
So when you say lottery-like companies, you mean like Clove or like Hoopy, that kind of secondary lottery platforms, right?
This Arena Club, there are lots of companies that also someone that you might be familiar with, right?
Of course, we are all familiar with a lot of folks in the industry. So you mentioned a lot about the elements that could determine the price, including the grading companies, and you got the auction platforms that are trying to push up the price for that. And then you got all those platforms that are doing lottery. All of them benefit from the hype. So the whole infrastructure here is incentivized to keep the party going. As an investment professional, what could be the downsides for card collectors?
I think there are 2 ways to think about it. So macroly, if you have like other assets who can draw attention better than the sports events or the TCG IP itself, then we are screwed, right? So that's mostly macroly. And also, I feel like card is becoming a new alternative asset. That's kind of like Bitcoin a few years ago. So I think Bitcoin was in a lot of trouble recently because AI is doing so well. So it's always a matter of how you draw people's attention. But from right now, I think the penetration of card investors versus the population of at least sports lovers or TCG lovers, the penetration rate is still very low. I've done my research myself. I guess only 1% of the sports watcher, they are collecting cards. So there's still a long way to go in terms of penetration. And microly, at least for sports cards, I think bad performance, injuries, or like after a game event, such as all kind of scandals a player can get in, are all negative impact to the card price itself.
Yeah, that's why like a lot of people are actually thinking, why don't we have AI as idol so that there won't be any scams or any frauds coming out from that?
Well, my argument for this, it's when you have negative event, it's a matter of how you judge it. Because I bought one of my favorite basketball player after he got injured. So he's like finest card in the world. I own it. And his name is Tyrese Haliburton. So he made it into the NBA finals last year. So I guess like when you have either positive or negative event, you can always trade on it.
So basically, what MarketCards is doing here is turn these cards into something more liquid, something more investable. And
Tokens.
yes,
Tokenize it.
tokenize
rare
it
cards.
and fractionalize it, right? So a card could value tens of thousands of dollars, or even just like the old Chinese card, it could be 3 million. It could be like Aaron Judge's card, it could be 5 million. So MarketCards makes it possible for every single user to participate in the price movement with a single digit principle. Could you explain
Yes.
why you're bringing this to the market? What are you seeing here? And what's the background story for you to start MarketCards when you were already managing a lot of funds and doing a lot of other stuff? So I know you're very busy.
That's actually a great question. So, well, mostly for love. The straight answer that why I do market is because I'm a sports lover and a car lover. So it's mostly passion. But secondly, down to like what we are doing, what we are today, it's because that I looked into the business model of a card related business. So we have live streaming and unpacking all kinds of cards. We have the lottery type of business model. And we also have eBay like model where you trade the whole cards. I came from like the hedge fund industry, so I trade stocks. When I trade stocks, I found interesting that people's attention are actually usually being focused on a few stocks. So it's very similar in the card industry, only the one-off ones, the rare cards that they go up more. But for a normal person, it's very difficult for them to get access to the one-off ones. It's hard to find. It's hard to swallow because sometimes you need to buy one with like tens of thousands. I think for normal people, they cannot get access to the better cards, but it's always the better cards that they go up more. So it's more or less a simple concept in my mind that I wanted normal people to get access to the better cards. That's my personal belief of how an industry should evolve. But whether or not that it makes sense, we are still at pilot stage and we are still improving our products. So a lot of people talk to me about the failure of fractionalize NFT and stuff. I feel it's different, but I still need to work my way out of it. So this is still early to discuss.
I love the idea of giving people access to the rare cards that could not even be found in the public market. So if you look at the cards on market, all of them are very rare. Like it could be one of one, right?
Yeah, the 68 card are all one of one. So we did that specifically just to try to bring uniqueness to everyone's access.
And the 68 cards are very sophisticatedly selected. So as a user, you can actually take market as an investment selection portal already. Right. So users are able to participate in the most selected assets and sports cards. So could you walk us through on how you pick your card selections and set the card's price at the very beginning? And what are you setting the price? Is it about the last public sale, or are there any comparable cards of this certain player or something else?
Okay. So whatever you do, you need to make choices. We need to keep a balance of how diversified our portfolio is and what kind of price we're issuing and all these kind of stuff. So when we were selecting the portfolio, we prioritized the rarity of the card. So all of the card has to be one of one. That's our first decision. And secondly, World Cup is coming. So we're going to include the players that potentially score in a soccer game. So in terms of the player performance, when they score or maybe they do an assist, it's usually the most sensitive in terms of their card price. So specifically, we actually ruled out anyone who cannot join the World Cup. In our first batch of launch, it's all rare one-of-one with players who can potentially score in a game. So in terms of the pricing, we have our own people who have been in the card industry for a very long time. So they do all the procurement, and then we run it through an AI model, let the AI decide what kind of price that we should issue, and we take a discount to that. So at this very moment, a few cards on our platform has already been offered offline that people are willing to pay a few more X to buy it. That's why we recently launched an auction voting that we might take one of our card, the Haaland card, to eBay to do an auction, and we'll see what kind of result we can get from there.
Interesting. So it's also giving newbies who are not familiar about the whole card selling process on eBay to have a chance to exit their position.
Yeah, so a lot of people asked us about how we would provide liquidity to the market. And this is our way of proving, or at least we try to provide this kind of service to our token holders. We can connect the Web2 world and the Web3 world. And I think one of the better things about what we are doing is that when you have a meme coin, it can go down 99.9% and going to zero. But when you invest into a rare card, it has some kind of bottom, at least in the Web2 world. There will always be people who are willing to pay for a scarce card of even a not so famous player because they might believe that they could perform well one day. That's how we think about the whole mechanism of how we are working.
Since you mentioned about the defensible floor price here, because all the cards on your platform are one of one, it has no actual comparisons. It's probably only sold once. How do you set your defensible price in your mind?
The way that we do it, also through our AI model, we try to compare the last selling price of a certain player of different cards, how it's trending. For example, when you look at Messi, since it's their last dance in the FIFA World Cup, their price go up quite a lot. I think the reason Messi went up to maybe 1.5 mil or so, it's still sold at a discount to basketball cards. But I think that's also potential. So I feel like you can always find comparable cards that reach a certain deal in the past 30 days. So that's how we are trying to benchmark each card. It's more or less like a comparable company model when you work in investment bank. You can always find comps.
Yeah, it's so refreshing to listen to an actual investment professional talking about how to make investment in alternative assets like cards. And it is very insightful. So I hope this episode is giving our audiences a lot of insights and a lot of thoughts here. We mentioned about like eBay as exit channel. Of course, there are people already bidding for the cards that you have on your platform. For those token holders, if they want to exit their token position and there hasn't been an offer, how do they exit their token position? How do you maintain fractionalized piece of the card being liquid in the market?
We have our market makers right now. We will provide liquidity to some extent, but also we try to benchmark it at the last selling price of a certain player, the latest performance as well. So in general, if a player scores, it always goes up a bit because it's very rare for a player that they can score in soccer, especially in the World Cup. You can actually count like how many scores that Messi made. You can benchmark to them as gold and then take discount to whoever was scoring like lower. That's basically it.
Interesting. So another thing I would like to ask, how do you keep the token price not straying away too much from the fair market value of the player or of the card itself? I believe there is some arbitraging opportunities here as well.
Yes, of course. We recently would launch our auction functionality as well. When larger token holders, they have a higher stake into a card. It's within their rights that they can raise their needs. If they want to auction a card. Once you hold more than 10%, we're open getting into an auction process. And if more than 50% of the token holders join the vote and over 66% of the people who join the vote agree to send it to an auction, our platform will try to list the card on eBay or Fanatics or like all the other platforms that exist. So we'll try to find the best platform for our token holders to access. I think that's also another way to do price discovery as well.
So speaking of price discovery, there's one thing that I can't unsee. If there's a higher possibility for this actual player to score in World Cup, you will see the card price going higher, which is price discovery. Prediction markets let people put money on outcomes, whether this team will win, whether this player will score. So market to me feels like a cousin of that. So if this person has a higher possibility to play well in this World Cup or possibly have a better IP value because of the games, you could see the price discovery over here, especially when it's fractionalized and it lets a lot of people participate in the price movement. So would market be available to provide price discovery for sports stars' IP value?
I think there's still a slight difference between card investments and just the game itself. Because when you look at the card price, interestingly, not only how well the player that they play impact the price, also the way they play, and even whether a player is handsome or not. So interestingly, when I look at Ronaldo, I kind of understand why his card price is so high, because he's handsome himself. And it's more like you get connection and when you invest into the people rather than the result itself. So I think it's very different. And when you are investing into player card, it's more or less you are buying his own story, his charmness as well. So within our AI pricing model, we also have like a fraction of the scores based on their Instagram followers, because it's down to the popularity of a single player. So it's similar, related, but not exactly the same as a prediction market.
Understood. And speaking of the popularity of football players, I saw that there's a campaign regarding making the least popular player in World Cup right now popular. I think he got more than a couple million followers in one day. So would that actually impact his price for his cards, even though he's like a very not popular player?
Yeah, I think it's all interconnected, and the popularity of a player actually do impact his price. And I would not say when he's unpopular, his price would go down more. For me, when people have really, really high expectation on one player and he underperformed, that was the time when the price would go down a lot more. And injuries also play a very important part. So there are players that originally were expecting to join the World Cup, but then he got injured. If that's the case, the price would go down a lot in the short run. But in the long run, it's always down to the people, how well they play, their athleticism, their moral standards, things like that.
Well, as you mentioned, a lot of price movements are caused by incidents. It could be injury. It could be whether he scored or not. So let's say if prediction markets provide price predictions for a sports card, but they become your competitors.
As I mentioned earlier, only 1% of the sports watcher that they are trading cards. I think it's still early in terms of all the competitions. So if we can have more people to educate the market, it's always better.
Love that. So I think in terms of serving your customers well, I think it comes down to another question that a lot of users, not just sports card platform users, but users generally in the TCG world, they have been asking, how do I know the physical card actually exists? How do you ensure that? And how should that be done properly to gain trust from mass users?
This is our FAQ as well. So all the cards right now on market are kept in our own vault. I run my own hedge fund and I'm doing this like real name. There's small chance that I list fake cards or I don't have the cards itself, especially when it's one of one. When we list a card, it's not belong to me. I mean, owners that it's not hard for them to find me. And secondly, we're trying to opening the auction function to all our token owners recently. So I think once we finish one or two auctions, people would know that because whatever we auction is chosen randomly, right? So when we finish a few auctions, it's a better way to gain users' trust. And building trust is always a long-term thing that we should consistently doing. So that's what we are intending to do in the next few years.
Yeah, I think this is a widely discussed questions as all kinds of TCGs are booming, not just sports cards, but including like Pokemon cards, including the One Piece cards, right? So in terms of ensuring the authenticity, we haven't really seen widely recognized audit process. So how do you ensure the audit and provide it to your users?
Currently, we will focus on engaging liquidity within our platform because it's too early for us. It's only been less than 2 weeks since we launched. So this is something that I'm looking to build like in step 2. In the future, I guess what we are going to do is that we would like to open a few offline stores in popular cities, and only the trading users that are on the market are allowed to get in. And we will put all our collections there. So I aim to build it more like a luxury house because all these cards, they are rare and they are high valued enough to be treated that way. So that's our way of doing it. But I think different companies would have like their own ways of doing it. But that's how we are planning to do.
I think I literally forgot that you just launched 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's still early for us. We've been fixing a lot of bugs like since we launched. So it's still too early.
But that's a good thing because in 2 weeks you've reached such a traction. That's a crazy thing, actually.
So all of our teams are actually car lovers. We are intending to do this long term. So yeah, that's also why that I'm doing this real name and also real life.
Yeah, I fully trust Jason because Jason has so much behind him. So he won't be able to scam any one of us. He's got too many stuff to give up on.
Thanks for vouching for me.
Because this is one thing that we all care the most about. So I think there's a long way that the TCG world can develop. And of course, having PSA is already a very big breakthrough. So it is somewhat standardized. And now we just need a little bit more on the infra side to standardize how it's kept, how it's documented, how it's audited for the tokenized version. So speaking of like the future of these sports cards, what other assets are you going to expand to?
I think I would try to combine our product plan together with the gaming seasons as well. So NBA starts maybe in October again. Kind of missed the playoff window. And I originally wanted to start with basketball, but the technology part, the product development part actually slowed me down. So that's why we actually pivot to World Cup. That's partially the reason. But then I think my priority may be basketball first and then baseball. But yeah, that we plan to just cover most of the sports categories and potentially maybe F1 as well, because I think F1 is actually gaining a lot of attention worldwide and it's an emerging areas. So and I like to work with new things and also emerging categories. TCG, it's kind of a bit far from what we have right now. I don't have any clear timeline for now, but maybe in the future.
So how would you rank or rate these asset types?
Very good question. I've been thinking about it. So I definitely missed the TCG window because they obviously have the largest user base. That's something that I haven't thought about in the past. And obviously, when you come down to sports cards, you got a lot more male customers rather than female customers because I think girls are less into sports. But when you go into TCG, it's very gender friendly. I think the problem with TCG, from my perspective, is they don't have any real one-of-ones. So when you try to trade TCG cards, it's hard to find one card that has like super high value because you can always find the comparable. So I treat TCG like a consumer product rather than an investment product. But when you look at sports cards, they have a clear pyramid of the scarcity of the card. You have 1 of 1, you have 5 of 5, and 99 of 99, and they issue every single year. And every single year you have a rookie go into the league. So you always have new theme to invest in. I'm personally more excited in the player's growth itself. And I like to look at people who develop from a rookie and then to a GOAT. I think that the best example in basketball right now could be Steph Curry because he entered the league with not too many people's attention, but then he fought himself into 4 championships, and it's way beyond people's expectation. And I think maybe at the beginning of his career, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago, his rookie year best cards could be only worth maybe 5,000 US, but now it's like 5 million. So 15 years, you go up like 1,000x. It's a great investment. And I think it's the penetration of sports cards is still early. So we could see more stories like these from now. So I feel like the sports cards are relatively different from the TCG part. And within sports cards, baseball and basketball are the 2 largest categories. And then soccer, when they have like a larger user base compared to baseball and basketball, the average card value is only a third or 1/5 of it. I think one of the key reasons why they are trading at discount was because that no Americans, they don't actually know soccer that much. And the World Cup right now is the first chance that the American people, they watch soccer. So I think there is a good chance that after this World Cup, the card price of soccer could go up quite a lot. They could play a catch-up story. So that's my growth story. And also F1 as an emerging new category around the globe. I think there's still potential there as well. I'm keeping a closer watch on every kind of sports.
I love the idea of like football cards catching the growth because it's actually the most beloved sports around the world by population. All my Latino friends are watching football. And I love that you're also eyeing on F1 because it's possibly going to be the sport that actually brings females into sports cards. So I think this is going to be wild. And especially when Netflix is shilling F1. So I have a lot of hope on this.
I totally agree.
Yes, I think within 2 weeks of launch, you guys are doing great. So everything we mentioned here are pure alpha. And Jason himself is also an investment professional, like with good track record, despite asset types. So this is the best podcast that could be in the industry right now.
And Tiffany is the best moderator in the world.
Thank you. So I think let's wrap it up for today. And I'm looking forward to your upcoming product line. I really have a lot of ideas that could possibly be realized on your platform.
Please, I need all these. Thanks for having me today.